Hello, welcome to Dog Lovers live, really live, like really live on Facebook and YouTube. But most of the time, people watch this afterwards and listen to it afterwards. I am so glad you have joined us today because this is the show where we try to introduce you to different podcasts and different YouTube channels that you might not have heard of, but that if you're a dog lover, you will probably enjoy. And today we have a special treat. We are speaking with Katya Lidsky in, I believe, Texas. Is that right, Katya?
Yes, but Austin. I want
In
to clarify.
Austin. We don't want to say the entire state because that's very different these days. But in Austin, which is this little unique part of Texas.
Let's call it unique.
Yeah, that's fair. We are talking with Katya, who is a writer, and along with her husband, has a television production company or showrunners. Is that fair?
I will give him all the show running clout. But we have it's like an incubator for TV show ideas and great ideas. We love to collaborate with people and come up with pitch TV shows.
And the focus on that is writing, but
yes.
Your main passion is dogs. And I think this is exactly a great time for the gardener to be mowing the lawn exactly outside of my window. Hopefully you can't hear that too bad.
I am glad he, she, or they are here.
Yeah. I'm glad that he is doing his work. It's just like the worst time to do live. Anyway, tell me a little bit about a show that kind of the title embodies what it's all about. The animal that changed your life. That changed you. That changed you. Yeah. The animal that changed you. I had to look off screen. I've got to get better at this. The animal that changed you. You've done 6 or 7 episodes now. And I listened to pretty much every one over the weekend, and I really enjoy them. But what was the impetus for that?
The impetus for that was my dog, Ophelia, who's a Beagle Mix, my first rescue, who started this whole nonsense. Just 25 pounds can change an entire life. And she's going to be 17. I adopted her as a puppy, so I'm pretty close on her age. And I definitely am one of those people who inertia is hard for me. I don't do well with not doing and moving. Hi, Gardner. I'm happy you're here. And I just had to do something with all the feelings I was having about Ophelia and life without her. Not right now. She's right next to me sleeping, what kind of diagonal to me. But that I was really obsessed with this idea that like there have been animals that have changed other people, and I want to know their stories, and I want to encourage people to have those stories.
And it's not just dogs.
It's not. Oh my gosh, Jim. I mean, you're a pro. You've done you've done a lot of episodes. And by the way, I just want to say, not only did I love If Your Dog Can Tell If You're a Liar, Dog Edition episode, but also Can Dogs Tell Time? I liked your metaphysical, psychological exploration of dogs. I just want to say that those are 2 of my favorites.
Awesome.
But we had someone who was changed by a hippopotamus who will be coming. We've had horses. Abby Moore from adoptpet.com was Bird Pierre, changed her. So we've had there'll be a cat episode coming up, but I foster dogs. Mine's a dog. I'm open to other animals changing me. I love them. I love dogs.
Let's talk about Ophelia, because Ophelia is your dog right now, and every episode starts with the most beautiful opening vignette, little like glimpse into your life. That is, if nothing else, you have to just listen to the podcasts to hear the conversation that Katya has with Ophelia or her husband sometimes about Ophelia.
Totally. Poor guy. He's always like, can I join? I'm like, okay. Ophelia. Her and I, from the beginning, like, I have felt for a long time like she was this missing piece. And some people come into the world and they're confident and they know what they want, and they, you know, they have ease. And I was not one of those people. Um, Blessed, happy, grateful, like looking for the green lights, but I didn't have that. I wasn't born with that. And so adopting Ophelia when I was around 24, 25 was, I always had dogs, but her soul and my soul were magnets or something of the sort. I'm not even still sure, but she really changed my life. She loved me when I couldn't love myself, and she loved me enough to love other people. And she loved me so that I could love all the foster dogs that have come since her. And I have loved them, and they have changed me too, but none of it would be possible without her.
How did Ophelia? Now we're basically putting you on the spot because you've never covered this. How did Ophelia change you?
I had a pretty gnarly eating disorder, so trigger warning, for most of my life, and you know, now I know it's, you know, I've learned in the past 15 years in recovery that, like, it's an addiction, it's a coping skill. It's often, you know, tangential with OCD or anxiety or depression or other matters. But at the time when it's happening to you, it feels like, why can't I get myself together? This is a privilege problem. Like, you know, you feel wrong somehow. And yeah, I didn't know how to get better, and I didn't know how to live without sort of removing myself from the world by being obsessed with food, body, and weight. And it's a lonely feeling. And I think that adopting an animal is the just most accessible portal out of that feeling.
But how specifically did
She
Ophelia help you with that?
She would see me binging, she would see me purging, and she would lick me, and she would kiss me, and she would come in and be with me, and she wouldn't leave, and she didn't judge me. And she was a sick puppy. She was a parvo puppy. She was really sick, and I had to beg her to eat, and I had to beg her to drink water, and I had to take care of her. And there's something about having a disordered relationship with what you put into your own body, and then having to really find a way to make peace with it fast so that you can save the life of an animal that you feel like is not doing great. There's also something to being witnessed at your worst and someone loving you anyway when they could bite you. Because, you know, at the end of the day, dogs are miraculous. They could bite us anytime they want, and they don't. They don't want to. And I don't know. All of that was working and massaging my brain without me having to do it. Thank God, because left to my own devices when I'm orchestrating and thinking and doing, it doesn't go so great. So it was happening like sort of beyond me. And it was her just loving me hard, loving me no matter what, radically forgiving me. And I wanted to get better because I wanted to take care of her. At the end of the day, I needed to love myself more so I could love her.
That is so beautiful. And you are loving her now because she's getting up there in years. How old is she?
She's going to be 17-ish. She's around 17. She's somewhere around 16, 17.
And there's one of those beautiful vignettes in the beginning of the show is you coaxing Ophelia to eat when she's walking away. And as someone who's had to deal with that multiple times with multiple dogs, that feeling like, just please come on, eat. Come on, I made you your favorite food. Come on, eat. Was so it brought tears to my eyes just in that little bit, because it reminded me of the odyssey that I've been through with so many dogs.
Maui?
With Maui and with Rue and sometimes with King. I tend to do I do Maltese, and they tend to be a little like, anything that's not perfect is going to be a little picky, and so but that you know, but they're very small, and so when they're not eating, it's just like, oh, come on, please. And I cook for the dogs, right? And I'm the cook. I'm the cook here. So my wife more is like, you know, feeding them, but I've cooked to order. But anyway, your insights and your glimpses into your own relationship with Ophelia are just such a beautiful, poignant way to get into each of your episodes.
Thank you for saying that. I truly did not know what I was doing and often still don't, but I knew that what mattered most was that we have a real relationship. We get into arguments. I have to find ways to get her to forgive me. She, will lick the corners of my eyes, to get all that salt out if I'm crying. I know her, I know what she wants and does before she does it. And she knows what I want and what I'm going to do before I do it. And that feedback loop is so intimate. It's so sacred. And I don't even know if it's possible with people because it's just pure. There's no language on top of it, and there's no intellect on top of it and analyzing, and that leaves it in this really pure state that I cherish above and beyond.
Well, speaking of intimacy and intellect, your husband has a little cameo appearance in one of those openings where, and anyone who's listening to this, anyone who has a loved one who is sometimes questions whether you love them more than the dog will relate to that.
My poor
Talk about that opening.
I mean, it's a very common glimpse into our lives. I can't tell you how many New Year's Eves. God bless Eric. He's a wonderful man. There have been so many New Year's Eves where we have people over, we go somewhere, we take Ophelia, and the countdown is 5, 4, 3, and like at 1, everyone's kissing and I'm kissing Ophelia. And he still looks for me. I mean, the man still hopes. And I have to hand it to him. I'm like, you will be next. This is the first kiss of this year, but you will be the second one.
You'll get the second.
Yeah.
Does he get the last one of the year, or does that go to Ophelia?
That also probably goes to Ophelia, if I'm going to be really honest.
Mm-hmm.
But okay. He knew what he was signing up for. Shortly after we started dating, we rescued Phoebe, who is we call her our dragon dog. She was a German Shepherd and Belgian Malinois mix from the South LA Animal Shelter, South Central Animal Shelter, where I used to volunteer. And we loved her so deeply. She was so magnificent, but really hard, really challenging dog. Mm. And he was like, if I was going to leave, it would be about now that Phoebe has come into our lives, and I'm here. So, I think me being obsessed with Ophelia was like second fiddle to Phoebe. Like it put things into perspective.
Well, I think that's kind of a unique dynamic that the true dog lovers, the true animal lovers have to sort of negotiate with their, their spouse or their partner.
Totally. I wonder if you feel this, James. Like sometimes I feel like I'm on an unreachable island with Ophelia. Like I like, it's just our place. And it's not that Eric is not invited or other people aren't welcome. It's just that they can't get there. Mm-hmm. That's the best way I can put it, which doesn't quite make sense, but it feels right. And I don't know if you've had that. If you would, maybe you'd probably put it in a more articulate way.
Well, no, I think I think that's very true. We're kind of like you and your heart dog, your heart animal. This I don't extend to every single pet you've had, but and there's this whole thing between the difference between a pet and we won't, a dog owner and a dog lover and a pet, and if you want to make a very pejorative comment to me, just say your pet Kanga. I'm like, no. I don't know. My possession. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, but we tend to really connect in such a way that sometimes those who love us don't fully grok it. But because they love us, they accommodate that. I remember when my heart dog Maui died, and my wife and I got another dog, Kanga, who's now my heart dog. Kanga came. She was like, "There's no way this dog is sleeping in the bed with us. There's like, no, we're starting fresh. The dog learned. That worked for about 8 hours or something like that. She said, well, okay, fine. And then she totally fine. I don't know it's hard to say who loves Kanga more, but we're at least now a family of 3, and we're very close to one another physically and emotionally and food wise.
Which are the 3, those are the 3 marks of love. Let's be honest.
That's pretty much it. I mean, yeah, there's that. What else is there? Although you did talk about very briefly bathing with your dog. Tell me about that.
There has been some paths. Look, Ophelia, I have panicked from time to time about her in her senior years going to a groomer.
Hmm.
And worry, like, what if what if it's someone's having could be the nicest person having a bad day and Ophelia has to deal with that energy? I'm sorry. And she's not the, easiest. She's not a water dog. I'll tell you that. And so there have been times where I get in the tub and then I just sort of scoop her in and hold her. And Eric's like, this is where I leave. I'm out. This is where I go watch Sports Center. Like, this is where I look away. I mean, I just want no part of it. And that's okay. That is a fair thing to say. What does it matter? I bathe with my dog. And I'm not saying I do it all the time, people. I'm just saying she's 17 years old. We've got the droopy hips. We've got the dragging legs. We've got that skinny body. And she hurts. And sometimes I want her to have a kind and tender bath moment. I mean, has this happened before she was very old? It also has. Yes, because I have no boundaries. But what I was going to say to your point about heart dog versus not heart dog, it's funny. I think before getting Ophelia, I think you've asked me two things that I now are kind of coming together, which I find I love when that happens. It's the mark of a good interviewer, James. But you asked about how she loved me through my hardest times, and then you mentioned these heart dogs. And the thing is that before Ophelia, I thought that love, like, there was a finite amount. I felt like I was not going to get enough. Like there was a scarcity mindset, or like a fear that there would be less for me. That is something I haven't articulated before talking to you right now. And then she has really shown me that is just completely not true, that there's an abundant amount, and that love is the only thing that exponentially grows. It will just grow and grow and grow and grow. We have a dog right now named Sassy from Lizzie's Hospice Rescue here in Austin, which is a fabulous organization. And Sassy is like a 10-year-old beagle. She's our 59th foster. Not all 59 have been heart dogs, but because of Ophelia, I have really loved them, and they have changed me tremendously. And I know that they have the ability to be heart dog. And that is totally because Ophelia taught me that love, there's just more love. It's like
infinite reserves that just keep expanding the more you slush into it.
Totally. And I get to be part of that. Right. If I take in an animal, like sure, sometimes it's hard and I get snippy and then apologize, or I get like overwhelmed, or it's like, how are we gonna, some are easier and some are not. All of those things are true. But at the end of the day, I'm always like, I just love someone. I get more love in my life. And that is 100% because she sort of washed that part of my brain by being who she is, a beagle.
A beagle who you have to give subcutaneous fluids to now.
Yes. Have you done these? Mm-hmm. They're not fun. I mean,
they're hard. You talk in the open about like bleeding because you stick yourself in the process.
I don't understand what my problem is. I can't take the needle off. And after you do it one time, like you use the needle, you throw it away. And then the next time you use that part of the bag, you get a fresh needle. And it's the taking off of the process. I have so many wounds. I've taken off my My Little Pony Band-Aids that my kids have put on me, but I'm like I'm constantly bleeding, and those needles are thick.
Yeah. They got to put a lot of fluid through in it. Let's talk about some of the guests. Now you have you try to make this, as you say in your description, a funny podcast, and I think it is. And you've had some pretty funny people on the show.
Oh my God! Like, my favorite funny people to watch and to hear, and I'm excited about it because I want very much to show that, like, there's rescuers on there and people working for spay neuter clinics, but then there's people who are unlikely animal, have unlikely candidates to have been changed by an animal. They're it's not, I wouldn't say they're necessarily animal people, all of them, but they feel the way we feel. And I find that riveting for some reason, that like across the board, it's this great equalizer. And yeah, the Sklars and Rory Scovel and his wife Jordan Scovel and June Diane Raphael. I mean, they are, my brain lights up just hearing their voices. They are such just naturally funny, amazing human beings.
Are you at this point in your podcast is pretty new. Are you at this point mining your, family and friends and associates, or are you finding people coming out of the woodwork saying, I have an animal that changed my life that I want to share?
Both. Like, it's a lot of like, oh my gosh, I'm so lucky to be friends with this person and I'm going to ask. And I don't love asking, but I want people, I really, really mean so much to me to create a space where, like, however you got your dog, if you love your animal, come join us. Whatever you ate last night for dinner, if you feel something about an animal, come join us. Like, you don't have to do it perfectly. You don't have to do it to the degree that I think you need to do it. Your dog doesn't even have to sleep in your, under your covers. Sure, I have my very, like, rigid list of things that I want for every animal. Who am I? I'm just a person. So I want to welcome everybody, because I do believe that when you can identify with something, you can lean into it more. And I believe we all come into this world loving animals, and something breaks, or we step away from it, or we compartmentalize it. And I'm so lucky that I didn't, and that I feel just like I did when I was 3 years old. And that gives me so much hope, because I'm like, oh, I want to just fan the inner 3-year-old animal lover in every person. And it'll grow to the extent that it grows on them. It's not my business, but I want to give them a space to grow it.
Now, you've written for a lot of different publications, many dog-related publications. Why do a podcast?
Probably, if I'm going to be really honest, I'd like to be like, oh, I'm a savvy entrepreneur and knew that would be good for my brand and business. That's not what happened. Truly, I was just like, I have so many feelings about Ophelia getting older that I don't know what to do. And if there's one common thread in my life, sometimes I wonder if people are like, this woman, so, my heartbeats are writing and animals, writing and dogs, these are my things. Sometimes I'm like, is that confusing to people? Like, what does this woman do? But I will tell you, the common thread and the connective tissue there is that for my whole life, if I have big feelings, I have always created something. I used to make Gaia creations for my parents and my sisters, like these little handmade things where I'd like glue buttons and make big elaborate things out of cardboard boxes and paper. I mean,
collage.
I mean, I have just, like, I've never been another way. If I can't put it out and make something, it's just the way I'm wired. Yeah. So this felt like, okay, I'll do that so that I can get by.
What are some of the podcasts that you listen to that you enjoy that inspired you?
I love yours. I love Dog Edition. I love Deep Dive. The Deep Dive, June Diane Raphael and Jessica St. Clair's is wonderful. I love Rory Scovel's Pen Pals is so funny and also really deep and heartfelt. I also listen to the Sklars. They have Scarborough Country. They have Virus Edition, I believe it's called now, and Dumb People Town. I love
Virus Edition. I gosh. Is that what I think it is?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, they just lean in and they're so funny. I love Kathy Heller. She has a podcast called Don't Keep Your Day Job. She's so inspiring and such a light. There's some new podcasts coming out. It's called like the Corner of Health and Wellness, I believe, or Hope and Wellness, a mental health podcast. Mm-hmm. You Me Empathy. I love Known Wells podcast, You Me Empathy. Just there's a lot of just beautiful stuff to listen to. I'm trying to get into my favorite murder. Mm-hmm. I get scared, but those women are so funny. It's a pleasure to listen to them. So yeah, I just bop around. I'm a bopper.
That's good. And you have a wide, that's a wide variety of topics to listen to in your feed.
Yeah, I like story. I like stories.
Now, Ophelia, as we've said, is getting up there, and I'm sure you're a thoughtful person who has considered the inevitable.
Yeah.
Are you in any way preparing for that? Is this podcast a way to maybe potentially kind of like connect and with that reality?
Yes. I think that's a very wise way to put it that I had not come to myself yet, but
Welcome to the therapy session. You'll get your bill after.
I did not know that was part of this. Yes, definitely. I started a senior pet support group a couple months ago as well with the podcast. So we meet on Zoom twice a month, and that's been, I mean, just the warmest, most wonderful circle of people that I love. I love them. I love their animals, and I feel really honored to get to hear people talk about their pets and that they feel the way I feel, and that we can connect on that. It definitely feels safer. And so, yeah, maybe a lot of this is processing and sharing. And I don't have a recovery without Ophelia, so that feels sometimes scary.
What does that mean? You don't have a recovery without Ophelia?
My recovery from my eating disorder has only been with Ophelia. I have never been not in the throes of my eating disorder without her. I've always
are you concerned that when she's no longer here, that may?
No, I'm not concerned about a relapse. At first, I think I was like, oh my God, when I started to really like process that it was going to happen. And I want to say I know how lucky and privileged I am. I mean, she's an old girl. We're doing it right, and something's working. And so I want to acknowledge that. But I think it was just a way to be like, there's a saying, you're as sick as your secrets. And I was like, oh, I can't hold this by myself. It feels too much, and maybe there's something to give here. And at the end of the day, the only way that I will always be okay is if I'm of service. And that's all I wanted to do. That's really all I wanted to do.
Well, this podcast is definitely of service, and I love it. As I said, I had not heard about it until this weekend, and I binged it all. And I will continue to subscribe. And I think you're doing great work. I'm interested in your senior pets group, because I think there are a lot of pet lovers. Dog lover. This is Dog Podcast Network. There are a lot of dog lovers who can relate and need some support and can benefit from that support as their dogs get older. Having been there myself, I know it's a tough process, especially if your dog starts to decline in health, whether it's any sort of disease or just old age and arthritis and being cranky.
Totally. And we have like a normal support group circle, like what you would imagine, but we also have guest speakers, and just having people come, whether they do massage, they can give us points on like tips for like releasing tension, or my friend, Dr. Mike, the Vets Unleashed is a great podcast. Mm-hmm. My friend, Dr. Mike McClanahan comes often to the senior pet support group and just talks about heart health or vision loss, or, lucky that I have these people in my life who are experts in different parts of, the world of owning pets and loving pets, and that they can come and are willing to come share their knowledge with. It's a scary time, and it's a taxing time to take care of a senior pet. And so it feels like a real honor to be able to support people in any way I can that way.
Well, you are definitely doing that with your podcast. How can folks find you, Katya?
Katya Lidsky on Instagram, very, Russian ice skater name, just Katya Lidsky. Or you can search The Animal That Changed You, and it will come up. And then on Twitter, I'm TATCY podcast, The Animal That Changed You podcast. That's a mouthful. And I haven't figured out the Twitter podcast space, guys. I'm just going to call that out right here and right now. And we have a little Facebook group called The Animal That Changed You, Community for Animal Lovers, and on my website. And I, will do anything for you and your pets.
Awesome. Katya, thank you so much for being with us. I
Thank you,
really
James.
enjoyed it. Look forward. I think I'm going to do your show sometime
Yes.
coming up. I'm looking forward to that.
We have to schedule that. I cannot wait to have you.
That'd be fun. I'll talk about my heart dog, Maui. And thank you for joining us today on Dog Lovers Live. This is the show where we share other shows and podcasts and YouTube channels for dog lovers, just like you and Katya and me. Please join us on Dog Edition, which is our weekly flagship show at Dog Podcast Network. We have great guests and great storytelling, and we have lots of fun too. And then all of our other shows at Dog Podcast Network, including Dog Cancer Answers, The Long Leash, and more coming this fall. So thanks again, Katya, for being with us, and thank you
Thanks for
for
having
joining
me.
us. Aloha.